Penne Alla Vodka. This is the dish that made me fall in love with pasta. Since I was a kid, I had only really had spaghetti and meatballs up to this point. The sauce has crushed tomatoes, pancetta, onion, peppers. It's deglazed with vodka and finished with cream for seriously one of the most flavorful pastas out there. Now, if you've never had this before, you're in for a real treat. We're gonna start by prepping up a few things and get right into it. Sound good? Let's cook. We're going to start off by small dicing up one medium-sized yellow onion. You could also use a white or a sweet here. Slice off the end, slice it in half, remove that outside peel, and then small dice it. Once you're done, just add it to a small bowl. Now for a little spice, I have one Fresno pepper. You could also use a red finger pepper. What we're going to do is slice off the end, slice it in half, and then remove most of the pith. I want a little bit of that pith because I want a little bit of spice. Not too much though, you know I can't handle it. Now, if you don't have any access to fresh chiles like this, you can substitute in 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of crushed red pepper flakes. Next up is cheese. I'm going to grate up 1 cup or 80 grams of fresh pecorino cheese. A great option here would be using Parmesan. I like to finely grate it on these zesters, and I also like to do it right on a piece of parchment paper. It makes it easy to transport. All right, next up, really important, I've got some pancetta. I've got a 1/4 pound or 113 grams. What we're going to do is medium to large dice this up. Now, if you don't have access to pancetta, you can also use guanciale, bacon, or half the amount in prosciutto. Once it is large diced up, we're also just going to set this right to the side in a bowl. All right, Comies, when it comes to tomatoes, you know I'm a little bit particular, and especially when it comes to canned, I love using San Marzano tomatoes. They're slightly sweet, not horribly acidic. The flavor is fantastic. Now, if you want to purchase these, you want to make sure you get the real deal. To do that, it should say DOP on the front. This translates from Italian to English as Protected Designation of Origin. That means you are getting what it says you are getting. They're from San Marzano. Okay, another great option would be canned tomatoes. You know I've canned a bunch. Got some fantastic sweet tomatoes. You be the judge here, but what we want to do is crush them by hand. Whichever ones you decide, you're going to need 28 ounces or 794 grams of these tomatoes. And using gloves, clean hands, or even a potato masher, we want to squeeze and break these down. We don't want it to be perfectly smooth. We're not blending it. We want it to be slightly chunky with plenty of the sauce in there. Okay, the prep is all finished up, and when making this recipe, you'll probably see variations in ingredients depending on who's making it. And my guess is the reason for this is because there are several different creation stories for this recipe. One being the Orsini restaurant in New York City said they made it in the 1970s. Another Columbia University graduate said he created it. And then there are several cookbooks in Italy that said they made it in the 1970s, but that the origin goes back even further. I don't know what to tell you. You just may see a couple different ingredients depending, again, on who's making it. All right, let's get started on the cooktop. In a large 6-quart rondeau pot, we're going to add in 2 tablespoons or 26 grams of olive oil. We're going to turn the heat to low-medium, then we're going to add in our pancetta bacon. The oil is there to help start to brown everything up. Now, this is going to be just like cooking really thick-cut bacon. It's going to take in between 6 and 8 minutes to get them nice and browned and crispy, just like this. Now, once they're at this consistency, I'm going to switch over to a slotted spoon and transfer these right over to a bowl. Now, going back over to that pan, what I'm going to do now is add in some small diced yellow onions. We are going to cook these for 8 to 10 minutes. We're not looking for some crazy full caramelization, but we do want to brown them up and add in some nice sweetness here. Now, it's time to add in our pepper. We're going to saute this just for 1 to 2 minutes. That is it. If you're only using crushed red pepper flakes, you can also add them in at this time. They are done sauteing. Let's add back in the crispy pancetta. We're just going to give this a quick little stir. Now you see that goodness on the bottom of the pan, that's known as fond. There's a lot of flavor in there. So now turn the heat down to low because we don't want to firebomb here. We're going to add in a 1/4 cup or 85 grams of vodka. Any brand of vodka will do. Turn the heat back up to medium, then scrape the bottom of the pan, remove all that fond, all that goodness, and then we're just going to cook it down until the amount of liquid has reduced to about 1/4. And what the vodka is going to do is provide some amazing aromatics. And as it cooks down, it will concentrate and help enhance the flavor of the tomatoes and can also act as an emulsifier later when we're trying to combine the tomatoes with the cream. Now, if you can't have liquor or vodka, no problem. You're just going to have to skip this portion. Now, if you want to take this recipe next level, what we used to do at the restaurant is we used to infuse peppers in the vodka. So we would have pepper vodka. So good. Okay, it's tomato time. Add all those tomatoes right into the pan. Now the goal here is to cook it for about 8 to 10 minutes or so over that low to medium heat range. We want to remove some of that liquid. We want a nice thick sauce, not a runny sauce. Remember, we still have to add in some cream here. So after that amount of time, stirring occasionally, I know when it's done when I scrape all the tomatoes to one side of the pan. And once they're all over there and they don't bleed into the other side of the pan just like this, I know we're to the perfect consistency. Okay, the tomatoes are cooked down. They look fantastic. What we're going to do now before we add in the cream is drop the pasta. That way everything can be finished at the exact same time. Now we're going to be using penne, obviously penne alla vodka, specifically penne rigate, which just translates to stripe. And you can see those stripes on there, those little ridges. Going to pick up a lot more sauce. Going to be very delicious. Okay, one thing I have to admit, I've been very hard on dried pasta with all of my cooking videos. I always prefer fresh because it's so dang good. However, I'm sure most of you aren't at home making fresh penne pasta or even have the tool to make it. So dried it is, and it's totally acceptable. It's great. I use dried pasta all the time as well. And specifically in Italy, they use dried pasta, the most important place for pasta. Okay, what we're gonna do is season up that water, make sure it's as salty as the ocean. We want it to be seasoned and season our pasta most specifically. Then we're gonna drop our penne. So in that large pot of boiling salted water, we're going to add in 1 pound or 454 grams of penne rigate. I like to move it around as soon as I get it in there. This is gonna take about 7 or 8 minutes to cook. At this point, we're going back over our sauce. We're gonna add in 1 cup or 240 grams of heavy whipping cream. Season it up quickly with a little bit of salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Then grab your spoon and mix it together until it is combined. It should be a sort of pinky orangey color in sauce. This is fantastic. Just briefly set it to the side. Let's go back over to the penne. I'm going to stir it occasionally, maybe every 2 to 3 minutes. Make sure everything's moving. We want it to be al dente, which also means to the tooth. So it should be firm, but it also shouldn't be chalky or hard when biting into it. All right, this is perfect. Let's drain off our pasta and then go right back over to our pan. Pour it in there. Now we've got a few more things that I want to add in there. About 3/4 of the grated pecorino romano. We're going to save the rest for garnish. Then what we're going to do is add in 4 large basil leaves. I'm just going to rip them by hand, get a lot of those aromatics in there. And then what we want to do now is just add in a little bit more salt and pepper just to make sure everything is seasoned perfectly. Now, mix the pasta together with the sauce until it's combined. If you notice it's really thick and tight, we want to loosen it up by adding in a 1/2 cup or 170 grams of that hot pasta water. This will help break everything up and still ensure it's incredibly creamy and delicious. Yeah, this looks good. Just as I remember it, just a 13-year-old kid, a dishwasher in a restaurant trying penne alla vodka for the first time. Oh my gosh, so many wonderful memories. I mean, honestly, the trajectory of my career, my life changed at that restaurant. And one of those first dishes I ever had was this. Amazing. All right, here's how we plate it up. You can serve this up on a plate or in a large bowl. For me, I'm all about the bowl. I want lots of sauce and lots of pasta. Then we're going to garnish up with a little pecorino romano cheese. And for a little bit more zip, how about some crushed red pepper flakes? Super good. Oh man, it just brings me right back to my restaurant days. Such nostalgia in this pasta recipe. I think you and your family are gonna like this one. And if you do like this, you absolutely have to check out my pasta carbonara. Oh my goodness, is it so good? Got a great recipe video. I'll see you on there.